Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen, her eyes wide with disbelief. The numbers didn't lie, but she couldn't quite believe what they were telling her. She had been working at the SETI Institute for over a decade, searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. Now, on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning, she had found something extraordinary. "John, get over here, quick," she called out to her colleague. Dr. John Martinez rushed over, nearly spilling his coffee in his haste. "What is it, Sarah? You look like you've seen a ghost." Sarah pointed at her screen, her hand shaking slightly. "Look at this signal. It's not natural. And it's definitely not one of ours." John leaned in, his brow furrowed in concentration. As he studied the data, his expression changed from curiosity to shock. "My God," he whispered. "You're right. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for all these years." Within hours, the news had spread throughout the scientific community. The signal was undeniably artificial and coming from deep space. It was repeated, consistent, and unlike anything ever recorded before. The world's top cryptographers were called in to decode the message. As word leaked to the public, social media exploded with speculation. #Alien Contact became the top trending topic worldwide. News channels ran nonstop coverage, interviewing anyone who claimed to have insight into the situation. In a small town in Kansas, Billy Thompson sat on his porch, shotgun in hand, eyes fixed on the sky. In Tokyo, Yuki Tanaka stocked up on instant ramen and bottled water, preparing for the worst. In Lagos, Pastor Emmanuel Okafor led his congregation in fervent prayer, beseeching God for protection from the unknown. Back at the SETI Institute, Sarah and John worked tirelessly with their team, analyzing every aspect of the signal. They barely slept or ate, running on adrenaline and the excitement of the greatest discovery in human history. 3 days after the initial detection, a breakthrough came. Dr. Aisha Patel, a brilliant linguist and cryptographer, cracked the code. Her hands trembled as she delivered the news to the United Nations Security Council in an emergency session. "The message," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves, "is a warning. They're coming. And they're not friendly." The room erupted into chaos. Ambassadors shouted questions, demanded answers. Some even broke down in tears. The Secretary General banged his gavel, calling for order. "Please, let Dr. Patel finish," he said, his voice strained. Aisha continued. "The message describes an armada of ships heading towards Earth. Their intentions are clear. They see us as a threat, a young species with dangerous potential. They intend to eliminate that threat." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, slowly, voices began to rise. Plans were proposed, arguments broke out, alliances were forged and broken in minutes. As the news spread, panic gripped the world. Stock markets crashed, riots broke out in major cities, and doomsday cults gained thousands of new followers overnight. Governments struggled to maintain order, but fear and uncertainty reigned supreme. In Washington, D.C., the president addressed the nation, her voice calm but her eyes betraying her worry. "My fellow Americans and citizens of the world, we face an unprecedented threat, but we face it together. Humanity has overcome every challenge in its path, and we will overcome this one too. We will not go quietly into the night. We will fight, and we will survive." As her words echoed across the globe, something remarkable began to happen. In the face of this external threat, old rivalries and conflicts began to fade. Countries that had been enemies for generations now reached out to each other, offering support and resources. A global task force was formed, bringing together the brightest minds from every field. Their mission: to prepare humanity for the coming storm. As the world held its breath, waiting for the next move in this cosmic chess game, one thing became clear. Humanity might be young, it might be fractious, but it was not going down without a fight. The aliens had made their move. Now, It was Earth's turn. The world's most powerful leaders gathered in a secret underground bunker deep beneath the Swiss Alps. The room was tense, filled with the hum of whispered conversations and the nervous tapping of fingers on polished wood tables. President Elena Rodriguez of the United States stood up, her presence commanding immediate silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady, "we face the greatest threat in human history. Our differences mean nothing now. We must stand united, or we will fall divided." Across the table, President Zhao of China nodded slowly. "For once, I agree with my American colleague. This is bigger than any one nation. We must pool our resources, our technology, our military might." As murmurs of agreement spread through the room, Prime Minister Adebayo of Nigeria raised his hand. "And what of the developing nations? We may not have the most advanced militaries or economies, but we have people. Billions of people ready to fight for their home." The Russian president, a gruff man named Volkov, leaned forward. "Then we shall arm them. Every factory, every lab, every resource we have must be dedicated to our defense. We are no longer Russians, Americans, Chinese, or Nigerians. We are Earthlings, and we will fight as one." For hours, they debated and planned. Old grudges were set aside, long-standing conflicts forgotten in the face of this cosmic threat. As the meeting wore on, a strategy began to take shape. Outside the bunker, the world waited with bated breath. News of the alien message had sparked panic, but also a strange kind of hope. People looked to the stars with a mix of fear and defiance. In New York City, Maria Gonzalez held her young daughter close as they watched the night sky. "Mama," the little girl asked, "are the aliens going to eat us?" Maria smiled despite her fear. "No, Maija. We're going to show them that humans are too tough to eat." Meanwhile, in a high-tech lab in Tokyo, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka worked feverishly on a new kind of shield technology. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, but he pushed on. Every breakthrough could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Back in the bunker, the leaders had reached a consensus. President Rodriguez stood once more, this time to address a global audience via a secure broadcast. "Citizens of Earth," she began, her voice firm and resolute. "Today, we announce the formation of the Earth Defense Alliance. Every nation, every resource, every person will be dedicated to our survival and victory." She outlined the plan, a global draft to build the largest army in history, the conversion of all major industries to military production, and a worldwide program to identify and train the brightest minds for the battles to come. "We call this Operation Final Stand," she continued, "because that's what this is, our final stand as a species. But make no mistake, we will stand, and we will win." As the broadcast ended, a wave of determination swept across the globe. In London, retired soldier James Baker dusted off his old uniform. In Rio de Janeiro, young computer prodigy Anna Silva began coding a new battle simulation program. In Mumbai, housewife Priya Patel signed up for basic military training. The Earth Defense Alliance moved with unprecedented speed and cooperation. Old enemies became comrades, sharing military secrets and technological advancements. A new global currency was established to fund the war effort, backed by every nation on Earth. In orbit, construction began on a series of space stations that would serve as humanity's first line of defense. On the ground, massive underground cities were excavated, ready to shelter civilians in case of planetary bombardment. As weeks passed, the initial panic gave way to a grim determination. Humanity had always been at its best with its back against the wall. And now, facing extinction, it rose to the occasion with awe-inspiring resolve. In the White House Situation Room, President Rodriguez looked at the latest reports. Earth's military strength had tripled in a month. New weapons were being developed at an astonishing rate. Global food production had been revolutionized to prepare for potential sieges. She turned to her chief of staff. "Send word to the bunker. Tell them we're ready for phase 2. As the message was relayed, leaders around the world nodded in grim satisfaction. The next step was crucial and dangerous, but necessary. It was time to send a message to the stars. Humanity had been warned. Now, it was humanity's turn to issue a warning of its own. The sun was barely rising over Silicon Valley when Dr. Aisha Patel arrived at the newly established Earth Defense Technology Center. Dark circles under her eyes betrayed her lack of sleep, but her steps were energetic. Today was a big day. Inside the vast complex, thousands of the world's brightest minds were hard at work. The air buzzed with the sound of typing, soldering, and heated discussions in dozens of languages. Aisha made her way to the central hub, where holographic displays showed the progress of various projects. She allowed herself a small smile. 6 months ago, much of this technology would have seemed like science fiction. Dr. Patel, a voice called out. It was Zhang Wei, a brilliant young engineer from China. We've had a breakthrough with the plasma shields. Come see. In a nearby lab, a small-scale model of a city was protected by a shimmering energy field. Zhang activated a simulated alien weapon. The shield flickered but held. Aisha's eyes widened. Incredible. How soon can we scale this up? With the global resources at our disposal. Weeks, not months, Zhang replied, grinning. Across the complex, in the aerospace division, former NASA engineer John Martinez was overseeing the construction of Earth's first faster-than-light spacecraft. The Alcubierre drive is stable, he reported to his team. We're bending space-time like it's putty. Those alien bastards won't know what hit them. In the weapons development sector, Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Japan was putting the finishing touches on a revolutionary new type of energy weapon. It's not just a gun, she explained to the awestruck observers. It's a handheld particle accelerator. One shot can punch through a meter of solid steel. As impressive as these advancements were, perhaps the most crucial work was happening in the AI division. Here, a team led by Nigerian prodigy Oluwaseun Adebayo was developing an AI to assist in battle strategy. We're calling it GAIA, Global AI Assistant, Oluwaseun explained to Aisha during her rounds. It can process and analyze combat data from around the world in real time, predicting enemy movements and suggesting countermeasures faster than any human could. Aisha nodded, impressed. And the ethical safeguards. Multiple redundancies, Oluwaseun assured her. GAIA is here to assist, not to take control. The final decisions will always be made by humans. As night fell, Aisha found herself in a meeting with the other project leads. The progress reports were encouraging, but time was of the essence. We've made incredible strides, she said, looking around the room. But we can't rest on our laurels. Every day brings us closer to the arrival of the alien fleet. We need to push harder, work faster. The team nodded in agreement. They all knew the stakes. Meanwhile, in orbit, the first of Earth's new space stations was nearing completion. The massive structure gleamed in the sunlight, bristling with advanced sensors and weapon systems. On the lunar surface, a base was being constructed to serve as a forward operating post. Automated mining operations were already extracting vital resources from the moon's crust. Back on Earth, civilian life had been transformed. Schools now included combat training and alien technology studies in their curricula. Every citizen was required to learn basic survival skills and emergency protocols. In her small apartment, Sarah Chen, the SETI scientist who had first detected the alien signal, looked out at the changed world. The streets were quieter now, with most resources dedicated to the war effort. But there was a palpable sense of purpose in the air. Her phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Patel. We're ready for the next phase. Report to the center tomorrow at 600. Sarah took a deep breath. Tomorrow, they would begin testing the new global defense network. It was a crucial step, one that would determine whether humanity stood a fighting chance. As she prepared for bed, Sarah's gaze drifted to the night sky. The stars seemed colder now, hiding potential threats. But they also represented hope, A future where humanity would not just survive, but thrive among those distant lights. In labs and factories around the world, work continued through the night. Humanity had always been at its most innovative when faced with existential threats. Now, with the entire species united against a common enemy, the pace of advancement was unprecedented. The alien invaders had unknowingly awakened a sleeping giant. When they arrived, they would find not a primitive civilization ripe for conquest, but a united, technologically advanced human race ready to fight for its right to exist. As a new day dawned, humanity stood on the brink of a new era. The next move in this cosmic chess game was about to be made. The control room of the Global Communications Array buzzed with nervous energy. Technicians scurried between consoles, double and triple checking every system. On the main screen, a countdown ticked away the seconds. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the center of it all, her face a mask of concentration. Beside her, Dr. Aisha Patel reviewed the final draft of humanity's message one last time. "Are we really ready for this?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of machinery. Aisha nodded grimly. "Ready or not, it's time to let them know we're not going down without a fight." As the countdown reached 0, Sarah took a deep breath and pressed the transmit button. In an instant, the most powerful signal ever created by human technology surged outward, racing across the vast emptiness of space. Millions of kilometers away on the far side of the moon, the newly constructed lunar signal amplifier sprang to life. It caught the signal from Earth and boosted it, sending it hurtling towards the approaching alien fleet with unimaginable speed and power. Back on Earth, in living rooms and public squares around the world, people gathered to watch the historic broadcast. The faces of President Rodriguez and other world leaders appeared on screens large and small. "People of Earth," Rodriguez began, her voice steady and determined. "Today, we send a message to those who would threaten our existence, a message of defiance, of unity, and of warning." The camera panned out, revealing leaders from every nation standing shoulder to shoulder. It was an unprecedented display of global solidarity. The Chinese president stepped forward. "To the alien forces approaching our world, hear this. We are not the primitive species you might expect." The Russian president continued. "In the time since we received your warning, we have advanced centuries. Our technology now rivals, if not surpasses, your own." Leaders from Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas each added their voices, building to a powerful crescendo. Finally, President Rodriguez spoke again. "We stand united, all nations as one. Our message is clear. We're ready and waiting. Approach at your own risk." As the broadcast ended, a stunned silence fell over the planet. Then, gradually, cheers erupted. From New York to Tokyo, from Cairo to Sydney, people took to the streets in a mixture of fear, pride, and defiance. In orbit, astronauts aboard the International Defense Station watched the blue planet below. Colonel Yuki Tanaka, commander of the station, allowed herself a small smile. "Your move, alien scum," she muttered. Days passed, then weeks. The people of Earth waited with bated breath for a response. Scientists scanned the skies constantly, looking for any sign of the alien fleet. In the White House Situation Room, President Rodriguez paced nervously. Still nothing. She asked for what felt like the 100th time. Her chief of staff shook his head. "No, Madam President." Complete silence. The silence was unnerving. Had the aliens received the message? Were they reconsidering their invasion? Or were they simply biding their time, preparing an even more devastating attack? As the waiting game continued, humanity didn't rest. The global defense network expanded daily. New weapons were tested, shields were strengthened, and armies trained relentlessly. In a secret bunker deep beneath the Himalayas, the Earth Defense Council convened. Representatives from every nation debated the next steps. "Perhaps they're intimidated," the Indian delegate suggested hopefully. The Brazilian representative scoffed. "Or perhaps they're laughing at our bravado." Arguments flew back and forth, tensions rising. It was the UK delegate who finally silenced the room. "It doesn't matter what they think," she said firmly. "What matters is that we stay ready. We've shown them our teeth. Now we must be prepared to bite if necessary." As the council meeting adjourned, a junior officer burst into the room, his face pale. "Sirs, mimes," he gasped. "We've detected something. The alien fleet. It's entered the solar system." The room fell silent. The moment they had all been preparing for, dreading and anticipating in equal measure, had finally arrived. Alarms blared across the planet. In every city, people looked to the sky with a mixture of fear and determination. The final test of humanity was about to begin. As the alien ships drew ever closer, one thing became clear. Humanity had sent its message, loud and clear. Now, it was time to back up those bold words with action. The greatest battle in human history was about to unfold, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. Months had passed since Earth sent its defiant message to the approaching alien fleet. The initial excitement and fear had given way to a tense, uneasy calm. Humanity stood on a knife's edge, poised between hope and dread. In New York City, life had taken on a surreal quality. Sarah Chen, now a household name, walked through Central Park. The lush green space had been partially converted into a community garden, part of the global effort to become self-sufficient in case of a prolonged siege. Children played on swings, their laughter a stark contrast to the military drones that buzzed overhead. Sarah smiled sadly, wondering what future awaited these young ones. Her phone buzzed. Another alert from the Global Defense Network. False alarm. She sighed. The constant state of readiness was wearing on everyone. Meanwhile, in a heavily fortified bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Maria Rodriguez, no relation to the president, oversaw a massive war game simulation. Holographic displays showed Earth's defenses engaging with an imaginary alien invasion force. "No, no, no," she barked at a young lieutenant. "If they come in hot like that, we need to engage the orbital platforms first. Run it again." The stress was palpable. Every day without attack was a blessing. But it also meant another day of uncertainty, another day for doubt to creep in. Across the globe, in a small village in Kenya, Amani Okello taught a group of locals how to use the new emergency comm systems. Part of the Global Civilian Defense Initiative, every community now had direct links to military command. "Remember," Amani said, her voice firm but kind, "in case of attack, stay calm and follow the evacuation protocols. These devices will guide you to the nearest shelter." An old woman raised her hand. "But what if the shelters fail? What if the aliens are too strong?" Amani paused, choosing her words carefully. "Then we fight, every one of us. For our homes, for our families, for Earth." The determination in her eyes was mirrored in the faces of her students. Humanity might be afraid, but it would not go quietly. In orbit, aboard the International Defense Station, Colonel Yuki Tanaka floated in the observation module, her eyes fixed on the vast expanse of space. Somewhere out there, the alien fleet was approaching. But where? When would they arrive? A junior officer approached, saluting awkwardly in the zero-gravity environment. "Colonel, the latest long-range scans are complete. Still no sign of the fleet." Yuki nodded, dismissing the officer. The waiting was the hardest part. She almost wished the aliens would just arrive, so they could face the threat head-on. Back on Earth, in the labs of the Global Defense Technology Center, Dr. Aisha Patel worked tirelessly on improving the planetary shield system. The prototypes had been promising, but there was always room for improvement. "Dr. Patel," her AI assistant chimed, "I've run the simulations. The new configuration shows a 12% increase in overall effectiveness." Aisha allowed herself a small smile. Every percentage point could mean the difference between survival and extinction. As night fell across the planet, billions of people looked up at the stars, wondering which one might hide the approaching threat. In homes and shelters, in military bases and civilian centers, humanity remained vigilant. The Global Defense Council convened daily, reviewing strategies and contingencies. Today's meeting was particularly tense. "We can't keep the world on high alert indefinitely," the French representative argued. "The strain on resources, on morale, it's unsustainable." "And what would you suggest?" the Nigerian counselor shot back. "That we let our guard down. The moment we relax could be the moment they strike." President Rodriguez, looking tired but resolute, raised her hand for silence. "We stay the course," she said firmly. "We've come too far, prepared too much, to falter now. Humanity has united in a way never before seen in history. We will face this threat whenever it comes together." As the meeting adjourned, a young aide rushed in, his face pale. "Madam President," he gasped, "we've detected something at the edge of the solar system. It's big, and it's moving fast." The room fell silent. Was this it? The moment they had all been dreading and preparing for? President Rodriguez straightened her jacket, her face a mask of determination. "Alert all commands," she said, her voice steady. "It's time to see if all our preparation has paid off." Across the earth, alarms began to sound. In cities and villages, in bunkers and stations, humanity prepared to face its greatest challenge. The waiting game was over. The real test was about to begin. The alarms blared across every continent, every city, every home. Humanity's moment of truth had arrived. The alien fleet had entered the solar system. In the Global Defense Command Center, buried deep beneath the Swiss Alps, screens lit up with urgent data. President Rodriguez stood at the center, her face a mask of determination. "Status report," she demanded. General Wei, the Chinese military strategist, stepped forward. "Madam President, long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching. They've just passed Jupiter's orbit." Dr. Aisha Patel, monitoring the advanced AI system, added, "GAIA predicts they'll reach Earth's orbit in approximately 72 hours at their current speed." The room buzzed with tense activity. This was the moment they had prepared for, feared, and in some ways, longed for. The waiting was over. In orbit, aboard the International Defense Station, Colonel Yuki Tanaka barked orders to her crew. "Activate all defense systems. I want every weapon hot and every shield at full power." The massive station hummed to life, its advanced systems powering up. Similar scenes played out across the network of orbital platforms that now encircle the Earth. Back on the ground, in cities across the world, civilians moved with practiced efficiency towards underground shelters. Years of drills had prepared them for this moment. In New York, Sarah Chen helped guide a group of scared children into a bunker. "It's going to be okay," she reassured them, even as her own heart raced. "We're ready for them." As the alien fleet drew closer, humanity's first line of defense sprang into action. The lunar base, hidden on the far side of the moon, powered up its massive railguns. These enormous weapons, capable of accelerating projectiles to a fraction of light speed, stood ready to unleash devastation upon the approaching armada. Commander Oluwaseun Adebayo, leader of the lunar base, took a deep breath as he gazed at the tactical display. "May God have mercy on us all," he whispered. The hours ticked by with agonizing slowness. Every eye on Earth, every telescope, every satellite was focused on the approaching fleet. As it drew closer, details began to emerge. "My God," breathed Dr. Martinez, studying the images at the Global Defense Command Center. "The size of those ships. They're like nothing we've ever seen." Indeed, the alien vessels were massive beyond comprehension. The largest was easily the size of a small moon, dwarfing even humanity's most ambitious space constructions. As the fleet crossed the orbit of Mars, President Rodriguez made a decision. "It's time," she said firmly. "Send the message." With a nod from the communication officer, Earth broadcast its final warning. The message, translated into every known human language and several theoretical alien ones, was simple but powerful. "Attention approaching fleet. You enter the space of a united Earth. We are prepared to defend our home with all necessary force." Any hostile action will be met with immediate and devastating retaliation. We stand ready. Approach at your own risk. The message echoed across the solar system, a testament to humanity's resolve. Now, they'd waited for a response. Hours passed. The alien fleet continued its approach, showing no sign of slowing or changing course. Tension mounted with each passing minute. Then, suddenly, something unexpected happened. The alien fleet, mere hours from Earth's orbit, stopped. In the command center, confused voices rose. What are they doing? Is this a trick? Are they preparing to attack? Dr. Patel, her eyes glued to her console, spoke up. Madam President, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship. The room fell silent. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of humanity. President Rodriguez straightened her shoulders. Put it through, she ordered. The main screen flickered to life, and for the first time, humanity gazed upon the face of their potential destroyers. What they saw left them speechless. The alien was not the terrifying monster many had imagined. Instead, it appeared almost familiar. 2 eyes, a mouth, bilateral symmetry. Different, yes, but not incomprehensibly so. The alien spoke, its words translated by the advanced AI. People of Earth, it began, its tone surprisingly gentle. We come not as conquerors, but as evaluators. A collective gasp echoed through the command center. This was not the greeting anyone had expected. As the alien continued to speak, explaining their true purpose, the tension in the room slowly began to dissipate. Perhaps, just perhaps, this first contact would not end in war after all. But one thing was clear. Humanity's show of unity and strength had made an impression. The aliens had approached cautiously, respecting the warning they had received. Humanity had stood ready, and in doing so, they had changed the course of history. The massive alien ships hung in Earth's orbit, their presence both awe-inspiring and terrifying. On the ground and in orbital stations, humanity's military forces remained on high alert, weapons primed and ready. In the Global Defense Command Center, President Rodriguez stood face to face with the holographic image of the alien leader. The tension in the room was palpable. You claim to be evaluators, Rodriguez said, her voice steady. Explain yourselves. The alien, who had introduced itself as High Commander Zorn, nodded its strangely familiar head. For millennia, we have watched young civilizations grow. Some flourish, others destroy themselves. We intervene when necessary. Dr. Aisha Patel, standing nearby, couldn't contain her curiosity. Intervene how? She asked. Zorn's large, almond-shaped eyes blinked slowly. Sometimes we guide. Other times, we remove threats. A chill ran through the room. The implied threat was clear. General Wei stepped forward, his face a mask of determination. And which are we? A civilization to guide, or a threat to remove? Zorn was silent for a moment. That, it said finally, is what we are here to determine. Over the next few hours, a tense dialogue unfolded. The aliens questioned humanity's leaders about Earth's history, its wars, its treatment of the environment. They seemed particularly interested in how humans had united in the face of their perceived threat. Meanwhile, outside the command center, the world watched and waited. In New York City, Sarah Chen stood with a crowd in Times Square, all eyes fixed on the massive screens showing the alien ships in orbit. What do you think will happen? A young boy asked her, fear in his eyes. Sarah knelt down, meeting his gaze. I don't know, she said honestly, but whatever happens, we'll face it together. In orbit, Colonel Yuki Tanaka kept her crews on constant alert. The alien fleet had made no aggressive moves, but she wasn't taking any chances. Stay sharp, she reminded her teams. We've trained for this. We're ready for anything. Back in the command center, the questioning had taken an unexpected turn. The aliens were now asking about Earth's recent technological advancements. Your progress in the last few months has been remarkable, Zorn observed. How did you achieve this? President Rodriguez exchanged glances with her advisors. This was the moment of truth. We united, she said simply. When faced with a common threat, we put aside our differences. We pooled our resources, our knowledge. We achieved together what none of us could have done alone. Zorn was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, the alien made a sound that could only be described as laughter. You have passed the test, Zorn announced. Confusion rippled through the room. Test, General Wei demanded. What test? Zorn explained. The invasion threat had been a ruse, a way to test how humanity would react to a global crisis. Would they fracture and fight among themselves, or unite and rise to the challenge? Many civilizations fail this test, Zorn said. They turn on each other, waste their resources on internal conflicts. You came together. You advanced. You prepared to fight, yes, but you also sent a message of warning first. You showed wisdom as well as strength. The tension in the room began to dissipate, replaced by a cautious sense of relief and wonder. So what happens now? President Rodriguez asked. Zorn's expression became what could only be described as a smile. Now we talk. We share. We learn from each other. You have earned your place among the galactic community. As word of this unexpected turn of events spread, celebrations erupted around the world. The threat of extinction had transformed into an opportunity for unprecedented growth and discovery. In the days that followed, the first human delegations boarded the alien ships, beginning a new era of cultural and technological exchange. Earth's United Defense Forces, no longer needed to repel an invasion, were repurposed for joint human-alien exploration missions. Sarah Chen, watching the first human-alien handshake broadcast live from orbit, felt tears in her eyes. The young boy from earlier tugged at her sleeve. "See," she said, smiling down at him. "We faced it together. And look what we achieved." As the sun set on this historic day, humanity looked to the stars with new eyes. The universe was no longer a source of fear, but a frontier of endless possibilities. United by a common purpose, tested by fire, humanity had not only survived, it had thrived. The greatest adventure in human history was just beginning.